Haha, you're here. Welcome to another episode of XP Hunters. I'm your host, Hey Jay, and joining me once again, we've got Blue. I need more syllables. I need more syllables in your name, or like Blue the something.
I'm Blue Water EZP technically, but I mean Blue the instructor. That's me. That's who I am.
Blue
I'm
the instructor.
Blue the instructor. That's actually, if you go on with whoever playing Monster Hunter Rise together, you can hit the little button. You can see people's titles, and you'll see that it says Blue the instructor. That's me. It says that.
And are you feeling?
So there you go.
Are you feeling blue today?
I can't. Oh, I'm blue every day. I'm blue. Well, we're gonna get copyrighted. Watch out.
Yeah, you do have a beautiful voice. They
Thank you.
remixed that song. I don't know if you've heard the new version.
Yeah. The one it's a like beautiful night or something like that, or
it's an improvement in my opinion. But
now, there's two versions, by the way. If you're talking about the one that has a certain, we'll say frickin' in it. There's a version that's freaking, and there's one that's not. I'll send you the clean version. I actually like the clean version more.
I did not know there was a dirty version.
Well, then there you go. That's the one that I always hear is the other one. Anyway, but yeah, I love how you went, haha, you're here. That's actually, I have a guy who comes in, and every time he does, that's what he types. And I actually just made that audio file, so that way I can put it in the Streamlabs. That way when he comes in, he'll be just for him.
I wonder where he got the inspiration from. It must be from this podcast, because he went to the future and got it from here.
Yeah, see, very good. Good job, Dodo. I'm proud of you.
Well, if it is your first time joining us, welcome. It is a podcast about video games. Two guys talking about games. Last time we talked about Dark Souls, and today we got to talk about the game that really brought us together, which is Monster Hunter. And our big topic today is going to be, has Monster Hunter become too easy? Let this noob tell you what I think about that. And Blue, who's played probably all of them, will have an opinion as well.
I have played almost all of them, including like from Frontier and even Monster Hunter Online, the Chinese one.
Whoa. How long have you been playing Monster Hunter?
Oh, I'm a third fleeter. So the thing is, I'm from the third fleet. And my first Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter Tri. But right after Tri, I played the first one on PlayStation 2, which I have. And,
so you went back to the beginning and just...
And I've been with the franchise since,
Wow.
So I've been kind of there since the beginning.
Okay, so hands down, when we get into that topic, you're going to have a much broader opinion or a broader pool of experience to build your opinion on. Whereas I've only played 3U World, Sun, or whatever they call it now, Sunrise Break or whatever.
So Rise, Sunbreak, World, Iceborne, 3 Ultimate, and now you're experiencing 4 Ultimate for the first time.
That's right.
But that's the beautiful thing. Like, you're a fiver. And heck, I married a fiver. So,
love that.
But it's the thing of a lot of my friends are fivers. I've been trying to get people into this franchise for a long time, but it was good old Monster Hunter World that I owe everything to, because they got like probably 20 people I know into the franchise. So.
But before we get into that topic, we got to cover some old business, because we had some opinions from our discussion last podcast on whether Dark Souls was designed to be easy. You have those comments, right?
Okay, yeah. If you want to go into old business, sure. Yeah. And then,
or did I miss something? I'm sorry if I'm missing the flow.
I thought we were going to do old business after this time.
After which one? Oh,
yeah. It was your idea.
That was a terrible idea. Let's do old business first.
That's the Hey Jay moment, everyone.
It's
so proud of him.
It's improvise, and it's constructive chaos, as I like to call it, or maybe it's Mini Guy that likes to call it.
All right. Mini Guy. So you want to go into old news?
Let's wrap up the thoughts from last episode, because we were talking about are the Soulsborne games designed to be too easy? We had a differing opinion where I said no, they're hard for newcomers. I think we kind of agreed on a middle ground.
We came to a great middle ground. Yeah.
But yeah, we had the community share their thoughts.
We did, yeah. And there was a few things. So first, let's talk about some of the things, the comments that we received. Like and this is for everyone who's listening, please, go onto the Discord. We have a thread on the Hey Jay Discord, or in the Nothing for Free Discord, where it's called XP Hunters Podcast. If you go in there, where you can talk about the latest podcast, your thoughts on it, and you might be popping in on the next one. Also, if you comment on YouTube, wherever you comment, Twitter, etc., make sure you do, because we're going to read it, and you might get mentioned.
Because we're always watching. The
Especially now.
comments. Yes.
Now there's two of them. So to start with, I guess let's talk about some of the things that we read. Like I want to so just bear with me. So
Sure.
we got Vulcan Fox on Discord. When we were talking about Dark Souls combat versus Monster Hunter combat, he had this to say. He said, "quote I do the Dark Souls Monster Hunter combat comparison because at their core, they are the same for me. They are about learning and countering what the enemies do to beat them. You can learn the tells of a monster hunter creature, like you can learn the tells from a Dark Souls boss. That's the specific reason I always say if you are a fan of one, give the other a try." What's your thoughts on that, Jay?
Well, it's the reason I tried Dark Souls because so many people in the Monster Hunter community did that recommendation of if you like one, you'll probably like the other. And I did not like Dark Souls at first. So that I think it takes time to understand or appreciate that, or maybe I just didn't know how to play Monster Hunter properly, so I wasn't there yet. Do you have to learn the tales? Yes. Are they similar? Yes. They're similar but different, if that makes sense. But the gameplay that Vulcan Foe here is talking about, I actually referred to it when I was doing my Final Fantasy VII Remake pledge. Towards the end, I was playing, actually all of them. The final optional endgame bosses, you have to pay attention to their tails, and you need the reflexes to counter that. And it is the same kind of nature as the Soulsborne bosses and the Monster Hunter bosses. So I do think that's maybe a broader theme. Soulsborne and Monster Hunter do share that to some degree, but they're still quite different. That I don't think you'll necessarily, just because you like one, you won't necessarily like the other.
Yeah, they're because we think of the whole game as a whole, it's much bit different experience. But if we talk about just the boss encounters, like I was talking about that tug of war feeling comparatively with the way your stamina works, because it's tied to everything. Rather than Monster Hunter, it's not. All in all, I get what he's saying when it comes down to learning the tells. Like one of my favorite things is like, for example, Nier Gigante, the arm he raises up is the one that's gonna shoot the spikes. For example, that's a tell you can learn.
Oh, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
you probably didn't know that.
No, I
That's why
didn't.
I'm an instructor.
Thank you.
So
What I find though is, yes, but the delivery is so different because in Monster Hunter,
yes.
you have so many opportunities to see the tail because, it's going to take 6 to 8 times before you die properly, you cart. Whereas in Soulsborne, if you weren't paying attention, 1 or 2 hits, you're gone.
You're just gone, yeah.
Yeah.
And then and the thing is, so but when it comes down to the combat, the way it feels, they feel completely differently, especially with the different weapons, and especially with, I told you we had things like, whether we talk about weapon, magic compared to long range, all those type of things. But but all in all, what he's saying about like learning tells and eventually just be perfecting each fight, yeah, very much so. The only one more thing I'll disagree with a little bit here is Monster Hunter fights you can just jump right back into, but with like
Yeah.
Dark Souls fights, you got to play the whole game again to do that fight again.
Yeah. And you don't, in Monster Hunter, you can't accidentally walk in overpowered, I feel, on most monsters.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe the early game. If you get a little carried away with exploring, blue, you might walk into a boss in the Soulsborne world and completely overpower them and not even see what the fight's about. I don't think you can do that on Monster Hunter.
No. So, but like I said, two different game styles for sure. Okay, so next up we have Ads Venturer on Discord. When talking about the get good mentality and people who like to say like elitist stuff like that, he says, quote, "This is the big misunderstanding of the series by an outside audience. You need to learn the way to play the game that works. That's a general agreed upon honorable way. As iframe melee is super fun and super rewarding, but not everyone understands that. Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne pushed that as a priority." Now I'm going to jump on this one first. So yeah, I see what he's talking about, like the quote unquote like the honorable way. It's about getting up in the face of what you're fighting. Make sure also you're appropriate level, appropriately geared, so that way also you get the best experience. And what he's talking about with Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne, how yeah, like they refined the combat just a little bit, like tweaked it just tight enough to where it definitely nails what he's trying to say here.
Right. Is he saying, do you think he's saying the iframe melee is encouraged and it's not understood by non Soulsborne players? Is
Uh,
that the argument?
well, because he's talking about the get good mentality and how people can really elitist about it. I think he's saying that games are super. I think what he's trying to say is that again, it's about practicing and getting good at the game. It's fun
Hmm.
to learn the mechanics and the fights. And again, when you pull off like you did with Melania, where you timed that waterfowl dance thing or whatever
Oh yeah.
perfectly, that's super fun and that was super rewarding. It was fun to watch. And the
Hmm.
thing is, so from one aspect of being like, well, get good, you can just do it like like you did, Jay, but also you could also do another way. Like I use Bloodhound Step. Like I use Bloodhound Step through it. Just give me enough iframes. So there's different
Yeah.
ways of approaching it. But as long as like we were saying, like as long as you're having fun, don't poop on other people's fun. I always say the thing of in Monster Hunter. One thing I tell people all the time is, if you're having fun, you're playing at your optimal level.
Like using divine blessing.
Yeah, I like
That that
Divine
was
Blessing.
that was very controversial when I brought on the divine blessing in my Monster Hunter World journey, my original one, and everybody there was a split where people were saying, "Oh, your wins aren't counting because you're using divine blessing," and I think that was a loud minority that was saying that, and you pretty much have the whole community is like, "Leave him alone. He can wear whatever he wants. It's a legit skill in the game," and to this day, I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to go back and do some of those fights without the divine blessing as my own personal challenge, but no point in being toxic about it. Um, One other thing I want to mention about adventure, because that comment, the get good, I feel when you don't play the game and you're not part of the community, get good is, has been used outside of the Soulsborne community a lot, and people know it
True.
originates there. And I think it's potentially outside the community that it got a negative connotation, because I remember seeing get good out of context of Soulsborne, and it was always used in a toxic way. I was like, and I actually
Mm.
thought the Soulsborne community was toxic because of him. I'm like, what do you mean get good? Like that's terrible. But being in the Soulsborne community, I even say it now too, and it's not a it's not an insult. It's a get good as in learn the rhythm. Like it's almost a synonym to that because it is rhythmic. The fights are rhythmic to a certain degree.
Yeah, yeah. There's a YouTube channel called what's it? It's Viva La Dirt League, and they actually did a whole thing about I think they're in New Zealand or something like that. But the thing is, but they did a whole thing about Dark Souls, and the last episode is about get good, and so the player character Ben, he's talking to Solaire, and because Solaire tells him, he goes, because he's talking about how it's so hard. He says, well, just son, bro, just get good. He goes, oh, Solaire, not you too. And then he goes, oh, get good's not like a negative thing. He starts talking about why it's a positive thing. It's a really good speech, and I encourage everyone to go check out that video. Go check out their videos. They're very funny guys, wonderful, wonderful guys.
Hmm. Any other comments to pick up? Because
And
you were picking them up.
last Yeah, like I said, I'm in the trenches. I love hanging out with our peeps, with our classy crew and our free lifers. So, and the last one I'm going to mention, I'm not going to give his quote really. I just want to touch on something. Dylan underscore J on YouTube. Um, like I said, I'm not really going to read his comment, but he was talking about the multiplayer, and I'm not sure if he was talking about like the PvP or the cooperative. It sounds like he was talking about the cooperative part of the multiplayer that is in Dark Souls 2. But he said like there was a because you haven't played Dark Souls 2, but I keep
I have.
saying that Dark Souls 2 it looks like it was designed to be played with two people. As a
Hmm.
matter of fact, there are in the DLC bosses, they have bosses that the community even says, I think even from software says that they are co-op bosses. Like you're supposed to play it with another person.
Hmm.
And I have to solo this. It sucks. This because I'm about to dive into yeah. No, I start the DLCs literally tomorrow, and I'm like, oh great. So
I can't wait till you get past this and start playing Dark Souls 3. Because the fact that you've started with Elden Ring, that you've gone Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, like Dark Souls 3 is going to be such a palate cleanser for you, and it's going to be such a joy. I can already anticipate your joy of playing that game.
I hope so.
Yeah, because you haven't played that one, right?
And that for a long, long time. Yeah, that's kind of like I'll touch on this real quick right there. I'll touch on something. I don't want to get too off of Dylan Jay's thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that I just want to say, but it's funny when he talked about that. He also made me think about the PvP aspect of Dark Souls. There's a big thing there where I was okay. I'm gonna ask you, Jay. That's why I want to ask you. If you had to guess the percentage of players who play from software games, PvP, what do you think the number is? We'll make it multiple choice. We'll say 20%, 40%, 60%, or 80%, around those numbers.
So are the percentage of the player base who have tried PvP or who regularly play PvP?
Regular PvP, like that's like their jam.
60%.
Okay, so
I think
if you think it's around the 60? Yeah, about that. If I was a money man, which I'm not, I would have been like, I don't know, less than 10%. The answer is 25% of the community PvPs.
I was far too high.
Yeah, so you were too high, I was too low.
Yeah.
So, and it was the thing is I was kind of shocked because like some people may be like, oh, well, that's not a lot. I'd be like, no, I'm like a quarter of your base of a single player game actively chooses to go out of the way in PvP, and it's what they love to do. Whether it's not just engaging in PvP like while people are on their adventure, it's people who like to duel.
Yeah,
like that dueling. Like when you did that Elden Ring thing in the arena, that was fun. That was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
That was fun because I knew though who I was dueling. I would not enjoy that if it was randoms.
Sure. I mean, the creeper kind of blew up everyone.
Yeah, he was funny though because he was thematic and it was creative.
Yeah. But like I said, but something also I want to touch on was had to do with crud. What was it? Because I didn't want to get off topic of
multiplayer PvP, 25%.
Before that, it was.
Oh
well. I should have just said it while I was on topic. That's what I should have done. Oh well. Lesson learned. If I think of it, because it had to do with I think Sekiro, sadly, because everything goes back to Sekiro. Yeah.
No bias, eh? No bias at all.
So, but oh well, if it comes back to me, I'll remember it. You never know, I might bring it up next podcast.
And if it comes back to this podcast, just randomly blurt it out. Yeah, just be like, by the way, 50 minutes from now. Actually, I'm gonna call it now. You're gonna remember in the next 20 minutes. We'll see if my prediction. That's my.
Yeah, I remember now. I remember.
I meant 20 seconds. Yeah. Go.
20 seconds, perfect. See, that's you all heard him say seconds. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So okay, what it is about like last podcast I said, because you asked like, oh, you played before. I said, oh yeah, this is my second playthrough technically, and I said technically. I had some people ask me like, what does technically mean? It's yes or no. Okay, like with Sekiro, for example, you beat the game. And there's a moment in the game actually where you can end it halfway through the game, so you don't do the back half of the game. So, but first of all, I cleared the game, then I went through it again, got to that halfway point, then I kept going wherever, like I saved scum so that I could keep going, so I could just do the rest. Then I didn't finish it again, so I played it like 1.5 times, possibly almost a whole 2 times. Then I restarted it, didn't finish it. Now I'm playing it again. So if you go like, how many times you actually played it? I'm like, you know what? We're just going to say this is my second time. So I just go, technically 2. Same thing with Dark Souls. This thing, if I play Dark Souls, but I have a memory like a goldfish. I don't remember half of, or if not anything. Like when I talked about Dark Souls 1 when I was playing it, I think there was 3 moments I remembered. I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember like the dragon on the bridge. That was one thing.
It's a good one to remember.
I remember Ornstein and Smo. I remembered that they are 2 guys. And I remember that one gets more powerful afterwards, but I did not realize that they also get their health back. Because my first time I fought them on stream, my strat was like, oh, well, I know that they power up, so I'll get them each down to 0.25%.
Oh,
like
no.
And then I'll finish one, and then that way I'll only have to do the second phase with like 20%. Yeah, that was a mistake. I thought I was being clever, and then, but no. And then I was trying to remember what the third thing was. I don't even remember really, but I don't remember now. But then the second game, I have had one moment I was like, I remember this. I remember there's this area that it's called the gutter. That's all I'm going to say. Everyone who knows Dark Souls 2 will know what I'm talking about. It is
Okay.
called the gutter. And I was a fool and I ran through past all the things. I'm not going to spoil it. And when I ran past the things, you kind of hit a thing that blocks you and all these things pop out of the ground. Yeah, once that
Oh,
happened, I was like, oh, wait, I remember this. I think I literally did the same thing 10 years ago.
wow.
I learned nothing. But it's just one of those like that's pretty much it. Other than that, everything's been a real new experience. I remember Dark Souls 3 a little bit the most because it's one of the newer games, so I
Mhm.
had the most fresh memory of it. So I think hopefully I'll remember the most from there. But the one reason I'm playing all the Dark Souls again is because one of my arguments was I don't remember where one began and the another one ends. But
Oh, it just blends.
boy, I'm learning it this time. Trust me.
I
So.
I'm sure it's very different this time around with the context you have and with the audience pressure too.
Yeah, yeah, the audience has been great. I told you I really like having the audience.
It's a
They've
good
been
it's a good motivator to
it is, and the thing
keep
is,
going.
and plus they help you with a few things
Yeah,
sometimes.
a
Because
lot of
again, for
things.
me, who's trying to find everything, and tomorrow I'm about to go into a whole lore spiel to see how well I'm nailing the story. Because who knows, I could be doing terrible. But all
Yeah.
right, so last thing we're gonna touch on old business. Then we're gonna get to the good stuff.
Yep.
What's our time? Oh, we're doing good on time. So, is things I want to touch on from the last podcast that I like started to say and never finished. One of them I said like, "Oh, Nuzlocke." I'm like, "Oh, we're gonna touch on that a bit." I never did. Well, it's quick. Nuzlocks, for example, I feel like Nuzlocks give a level playing field. Same way when you played your Final Fantasy hard mode,
Hmm.
like you said, it taught you the full mechanics of the game, everything you're supposed to learn and do. When
Hmm.
I play a Pokemon game, I've always been like, "Oh, Pokemon's easy, it's stupid, whatever." I always am way over leveled because it's blue. That's me.
Yeah.
And then, hello. So,
Don't mind me.
I'm always over leveled, and then, I thought you were trying to adjust my glasses. I'm like, Jay, back off, I'm fine. So, I where was I?
I didn't even know
So,
you wore glasses, so
well, now you know. Secrets are actually we had
slowly getting the visual of what blue looks like.
well, if you guys had been there for our New Year's stream, you would have saw me.
Oh,
We had a fun thing. We
face
pulled into the
reveal.
Nothing for Free vault. We pulled out an old video, an old
Oh,
funny skit, and you got to see me. So
very cool.
anyway,
Anyways,
back
back
to what
to
I was saying though.
Nuzlocke. Yep.
So the Nuzlocke. When I play Pokemon, I'm always over leveled. I never run from a single encounter. I never use repels. I fight everyone and everything. So I'm always over leveled. I'm always really powerful, blah blah, and I always beat the game no problem. But then it was back in like 2018 or so. I finally decided to do my first Nuzlocke. And when I did, like one of my rules is, for example, when you get a Pokemon, you have to add it to your team, and that Pokemon cannot leave your team unless they either A, faint, or B, you choose to release them. But then they're gone. You know, regardless of either of those situations, it means they're either dead or you release them. So because of that, I learned so many mechanics that, and plus I have to be under level too, because there's when I go to a gym, you
Hmm.
have to be under a certain level, and
Hmm.
so I'm never over leveled. I'm always under wherever the current gym's max level Pokemon is. And I had to learn mechanics, moves I never used before. Like I never used Sand Attack or Defense Down or
Oh yeah,
Sword
nobody
Dance or
uses that.
anything.
No, I know.
I always just picked four attack moves and moved forward with my life.
Yep.
But I started learning more and more the like how good the Pokemon combat system actually is. And it was this thing of like Nuzlocke helped me learn the mechanics of the game. Um, so it's just that's the thing where I talk about how with things like Sekiro, where I feel like it's more of a level playing field, and that's something I wanted out of Dark Souls. You know, I want to see more from software do something maybe that gives a level playing field. Now, I get that that can't always be the case because people like the open endedness. They like having the variety and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I have my ideas of how to um, balance that. You know, like how could you like one idea I had. I'd love to hear your idea. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
Yeah.
one idea I had was what if they made it where there's an area where like from let's see where your bonfire is, and then there's the boss. So point A, point B.
Hmm.
Everyone you kill along point A to point B when you get the boss and the boss is defeated, whoever you defeated, you get to keep their souls. But like, and after that, all the mobs despawn basically. So the idea is that you would have to, if you want the most experience out of that area, you would have to learn how to combat everybody there and be able to beat the boss. Because if you only fight 3 guys, let's say there's 20 guys, you
Right.
kill 3 of them, beat the boss, you're not gonna get a lot of XP. But if you get good, and you learn how to get as many people down and still be able to beat the boss, you get the most out of your quote unquote experience. That's like my idea of trying to balance it.
For Dark Souls
But the best way-
specifically,
Yeah,
I would actually create zones where your weapon choice is limited. So almost create unique dungeons. Like let's take Elden Ring as an example.
Okay.
You have the overworld, do whatever you want, but then have very specific dungeons where it's like you can only use, the magic here, and perhaps the game in those special dungeons kind of puts your levels set, but the goal of the dungeon is to overcome challenges using a form of weapon and techniques that you might not be familiar with. And it does go against the philosophy, I feel, of Dark Souls, which is use whatever you want and figure it out. But I think in a game like Elden Ring that's open world with challenges catered like per dungeon, I think Breath of the Wild did something like that it kind of forced you, if I remember correctly, some of the dungeons forced you to use certain weapons. Am I remembering that correctly? Maybe not. But
I think you had to use certain like items, like you were limited, like how you could like load stuff up and they could charge and could fly and stuff like that. I think you had to use specific things or something.
They did. So Event Tide Island, for example, where they put you there, no matter what you did in the whole game, they basically say, we're getting rid of all your inventory and you can only use what's on the island. And then they were able to design what the challenge was like. Same with the Master Sword challenges, which came in as DLC. You have to do challenges with just what they give you. And so it's a more controlled environment. I feel you could do something similar in the Soulsborne games where you are dropped in with, maybe a certain amount of stats, or they just say, here's 50 points, do with it what you will, but here's your weapon. Like, and then and then when you leave the dungeon, you go back to your custom build.
You talk about going into dungeons. That gives me an idea. They could make with like areas that when you go through a fog, what you could do is because in Final Fantasy 14, there's a thing where you go into dungeons, they sink you down to the appropriate level of the dungeon. And so that way you can go into the dungeon manually if you want with all your high gear and just run through if you want. But the idea is that when you queue up with your friends or randoms or wherever to go do your dungeons, it sinks you down to the level of the dungeon. You get, you don't have all your level 80 spells. You have up to level 14 spells because it's a level 14 dungeon. Stuff like that. Your gear gets synced down to being like really good quality of what would be around that area. But you're not like item level 1,000. You're item level like 20. And stuff like that. It makes the dungeon still viable. It's fun. I think they have Dark Souls did something like that where they go into like areas where you go through a fog and it says like you have been like suppressed and like it makes you kind of like it levels you out. That would be kind of cool. That way you bring in your own gear, but everything's kind of like balanced.
Well, actually, they could also do it. There's a few fights in Dark Souls 3 and in Elden Ring where you have to use a certain weapon to do decent damage. Yorm the Giant, I'm not going to spoil it, but Yorm the Giant, for example, you can use whatever weapon you want on him. You can use your build, but there will only be one effective way to beat him, and it's using a certain weapon. So that's a way that I feel, maybe it's a little easier to implement than what I originally suggested. Like, let's say you have a boss, sure, you can wail on him, but everything except, let's say, spells is reduced by 80% damage. So it almost feels impossible unless you use like a mage build or something, or no, because then you'd have to respec your whole character. So
no, it just makes it more challenging. For example, they could do things like this boss is more weak to dexterity, like ranged attacks. That way, they could do stuff like that. Maybe something will have an advantage, and something else will go up, something else will go down. That'd be kind of fun, like challenges.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said there.
Yeah, I think there is. And then, by the way, it's funny. You talked about games that were hard. I talked about Ninja Gaiden Black, and then we started going into a bunch of retro games.
Yep.
I need to bring up more modern games. Like, for example, a game I love that 100% is Celeste. Celeste is a good example of a game that is equal playing field, straight up hard, and I love that game and I recommend it to everyone just every time. It will hurt. It will hurt your thumbs.
It's weird. I didn't like Celeste, but I love Super Meat Boy, and people are like, it's the same game.
Oh yeah, see, yeah. If you like Super Meat Boy, you will like Celeste.
But
I'll tell you, Jay.
I did it. I did it though.
You may not have been in the right mindset, maybe. Trust me.
Perhaps because I made it.
I believe in you.
Decently far in Celeste. I made it past the hotel. I don't know how far that is, and
you got your brother.
Yeah, I don't know. The story didn't pull me in, and people say the story's amazing.
It does get good. Yeah.
And
the story made me cry at one point.
The platforming.
It's very touched me.
Wow. And the platforming, people are like, it's exactly like Super Meat Boy, but there's something about it that doesn't feel as rewarding to me. And I can't describe what it is.
That's something we need to circle back on at some point. I want to explore that. It makes me want to play Super Meat Boy and be like, because I'm less familiar with Super Meat Boy and Mrs. Meat Boy or whatever. There's another version.
Don't play the new one. The new one's garbage, but the original Super Meat Boy is like, it's a completely different kind of game. It's a time-based game. The new one. So the running it's an auto runner basically, and you have to like just.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's not like the first one at all.
No, I was so disappointed on that.
No, that sucks. Oh well. Okay, so all right. So the next thing we were talking about is being stuck. I talked this with you off stream right after we finished. Is one thing I didn't get to talk about was being stuck, and I want to talk about that.
Sure, yeah. Like stuck in a game.
There are 3 types of stuck. Okay, the first type of stuck is you're lost. You just don't know where to go. Whatever that happens, but for the most part, it's an easy remedy. Usually, it's just explore more, ask someone you actually know, or nowadays we can just look it up online.
Yep.
So that's the second type of stuck sucks, which is being soft locked. And now, I've had an example of a soft lock happen to me where I was playing Resident Evil Code Veronica. And there was a thing where the final boss of the game, you can get to him and you can run out of ammo and you're screwed because you were supposed to like put you play as a person A and a person B. And when you finish playing as one guy, you're supposed to put stuff into the chest so that when you play as the next guy, you can grab stuff out the chest. Well, if you don't grab, like, let's say the knife, if you run out of ammo in that final boss fight, but you don't have the knife, you can't do any type of damage. There's no punch or anything.
That's terrible.
So you have to at least be like, well, good thing I have the knife. But if you don't have the knife, guess what? No matter what you do, you cannot deal enough damage to that final boss, and it's the final boss, and you soft lock out of it, and you gotta do the whole thing over. My wife, when she played an awesome game called Eternal Sonata, highly recommend that RPG to everyone. Beautiful game. But my wife, there was 2 characters she got named March and Salsa. And there's a part of the game where you have to play as them specifically on like this pirate ship. Well, she never touched those characters, so they're still like level 5. But all the mobs are like level 30.
Oh no!
So she couldn't win a single fight. So she just soft locked herself a third into the game. She was like 30 hours in, had to just start over.
Oh.
So that also sucks. That's a different type of stuck. But the worst type of stuck, and is the one that no one wants to face, and that is the type of stuck where it's all on you. If you're good enough to do this, like we talk about Celeste, where you can just you have to just do it. You talk about Sekiro, where you just have to be good enough to do it. There is no over leveling. There's no magic item you can go get.
No cheese.
It's just you. It's like playing Guitar Hero, like I mentioned.
Yep.
There is no cheap way. There's no cheese, like you said.
Yep.
It's all between you. That's the worst type of stuck because you wonder, am I just not good enough?
I would say the previous stuck is the worst. When the game soft locks you, it's happened to me in Final Fantasy 13, which is why I've never gone back and touched that IP because I was like, I hate this game now. And it happened to me in, and this might shock you, Super Paper Mario on the Wii. And I've not gone back to play that game because I was like, this is so stupid. I hated, oh boy, maybe this is a topic for another. I hated Super Paper Mario. I love the Paper Mario series.
Right, yeah.
And let's add to the controversial sandwich. I actually enjoyed whatever it was called, Color Splash on the Wii U.
Oh, yeah.
But Super Paper Mario, I hate the villain, I hate the characters, and I hate that it soft locked me. Anyways, that's for another episode.
Yeah, that definitely. Ooh, that's a topic for another time.
But, and Thousand Year Door. No, I actually I enjoyed that one.
Thousand Year Door.
No, that one.
That's where we draw the line.
That was okay. That was a good one.
And so sides were chosen that day.
Yep.
But yeah, but the one thing about the middle one though is you can at least go back and do it again. But like when you just having to personally get better, there was a guy who tried to fight Kushul Daora since like the second Monster Hunter. He fought him in like 3 or 4 different games. He kept playing Monster Hunters, but every time he ran into Kushula, he kept losing. He couldn't beat him. And then for 16 years or whatever,
Oh man.
he lost consistently to Kashola Daora.
Oh.
And then he finally beat him in Monster Hunter World Iceborne just recently, like over like November.
Wow.
And he was like, I did it. And it was so awesome because this is why I love the Monster Hunter community. No one dunked on that guy. No one was like, get good. Like, oh, it took you that long. Everyone's like, congratulations, guy. I was like, awesome, blah, blah. Everyone cheered him on. But it was the thing of he never gave up. He never quit. And good on that guy. He may have quit in previous games because he kept moving on, but he eventually kept going at him and he finally did it. But that's an example of the only thing standing between him and the next monster was the one in front of him and himself. He just had to get better.
Well,
it was his personal wall.
To this day, Ninja Gaiden on the NES remains unbeaten because I can't beat the boss. No, it's not a boss. It's a level. I think it's stage 6-3 with the eagles, and I think you know exactly. I think you know exactly. Like if you don't get a certain item that makes you invincible, you can't get over there. There's just too many things attacking you when you try to make a jump, and the bird hits you and knocks you into the hole, and I just can't get over that. And it's been 20, 30 years. I just cannot. I can't do it. So
I'll tell you this about Ninja Gaiden. This is my advice I'm going to give to you that I kind of mentioned last time. It is available on the Nintendo. If you guys have the Nintendo online service, there's the NES and Super NES like emulator thing that's on there.
Save states for the win.
So yeah, they have save states. So go back, play that game. That's going to be your next holiday game. Trust me, that's the one where you want to play in bed. Spend the time to play it. Keep reversing time or whatever. Finally get that personal achievement on yourself, Jay. You earned that. You deserve that.
I got to bring closure to that. I think you're right.
Yeah,
it's been decades.
It's time for you to finally be like Ninja Gaiden. I beat you.
On my own terms. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. On my own terms. And then exactly. So, all right. And the last thing I want to say is about from old business, I guess, is we talked about the idea of them adding like a mod or something that lets you refight like the bosses and stuff like that. Well, it turns out there is a mod for Dark Souls 3. It's a boss rush mode essentially.
Oh yeah, I heard about
So it's not like you really get to play the same bosses over and over, but you get to keep like moving forward. That's pretty cool. And the other thing I kind of mentioned before, I remember, I don't think I brought it up on the podcast. I think you and I were just chatting, having a talk. And there's the bonfire, I think it's called like aesthetic or something like that, which is a thing you throw into the fire. And I told you, yeah, I did. I told you how it makes everything New Game Plus. But that's a way that you can revive the entire area and the boss too. So you can fight them again that way. But the main game that I didn't get a chance to mention, of course, is my beloved Sekiro. Has a mode where basically when you beat a boss, you get like the memory of the boss, and then you can replay the boss as many times as you want. And you get to basically items and anything you use in the boss, it doesn't use it. It's like its own little instance. And so you get the practice. And the other thing is it like scales them to where you're at. So you get to fight them with all your new stuff too. So like I recently fought like Genobu again, but now I have like all these new abilities. He's like the first boss, but now I'm fighting him before I fight the final boss.
Right.
But he's got but now I have all these cool abilities, but it doesn't make him easier. He's still tough as it can be because he's like scaled to me. It's really fun. But you can fight all the bosses, practice them without having to go New Game Plus. But yeah, Sekiro. I love you, Sekiro. Can't cherish you enough. Jay, I'm telling you, you need to
play Sekiro. Yeah, but I see I gotta play it. Okay.
That's an untapped market for you, man, because like there's so many of your audience who have not. I challenged everybody. I said, down if you have beat Sekiro. No one said they did beat it. There was only one comment that said, I didn't. I got to the last boss and I couldn't finish it. And everyone in the Discord, no one said they finished it.
That's the next little like pledge medal I need on my medal list.
Yeah, you'll have something that all your Dark Souls viewers, you'll have something that they don't.
Well,
you'll be one
that some don't. Yeah.
Some don't. Then again, there's a lot of people who didn't play Dark Souls too.
Some of those being me as well. I don't want to touch that game.
No, dude, if you do, make it last. Trust me, do it. Do it.
It will last because it'll take me so long. But shall we talk Monster Hunter?
It's yeah, and yeah. Let's talk Monster Hunter. Do you want to move on to new business, or you want to talk about kind of your journey a little bit in for you?
We can touch on For You real quick.
Yeah, I
Um,
do.
yeah. Well, for those who might not be aware, where have you been? First of all, no. Basically, I'm properly one stream into For You because I had to restart. So my first stream, my whole capture card fell apart right before I go, like 10 minutes before I had to stream. So I improvised and played on Citra, but I didn't know I had to configure it with all these things. So I was live testing and debugging and getting it to work. And then on the second stream, I actually got the capture card working properly, and I just restarted my whole journey on the 3DS, and so much smoother. Like, yes, Citra can give you the better graphics. The controller was way better. Like, it was way better playing with the controller on 3DS. But to have that peace of mind that it's going to continue running smooth, like there is no reason. Like the 3DS isn't just going to crash. It doesn't do that. It doesn't just crash, and little parts like the menu's not going to get distorted it's just I can be at peace knowing the game is going to run smooth. The downside is, oh my god, it's uncomfortable holding a 3DS for 4 hours and play Monster Hunter of all things. Like I think I played the Celtis on Citra, and I was like, oh wow, this is fun. This is like, I had a good time with it. I played on the 3DS. I was like, oh, this is hard. Why am I struggling? And people are like, are you faking it? I was like, no, it's not. It's that much harder because of the 3DS. I'm like, this is the easy monster. What's going to happen when I have to fight the hard ones?
You'll adapt. You'll get better. Don't worry.
I hope so. But I really, if there was a way I could play on the 3DS hardware with an actual control. Some people suggested there's an adapter I can get to get more of a comfortable grip. I think I'm going to explore doing that because
I think that there may be something, maybe you put on your 3DS, but there isn't going to be like a Circle Pad Pro, for example, because you have a new 3DS XL, the one with the little nub. And right. So because of that, like there is no additional pad thing you can add on. It's not like because the original 3DS has the Circle Pad. I have that, like the Circle Pad Pro thingy. I have that. Because I use that to play like Resident Evil Revelations when it came out. Then you have, and also there was a Kid Icarus game, I believe, as well that used it.
Yep.
And then we had the XL came out, but then eventually I never got it, but apparently they made a Circle Pad Pro also for the XL. And then we had things like the 2DS and stuff like that. But then we had the new 3DS XL, which has a little nubby, but I believe there's nothing that fits it because it's still technically a different shape than the XL. I mean, I have an XL. I have a Zelda XL, and I have a Metroid new 3DS XL. So they are different shapes. And I'll tell you right now, I beat all of Monster Hunter 3U on the XL, and I beat Monster Hunter 4U on the new one with the little nub. And so you'll be okay. I also have cramps and problems with handhelds, and
you can see me, right? Like if I could get something like this, that would make a world of a difference.
I think it would too. Oh my god, that looks way more comfortable already.
Just the whole, because like I have two wires coming out, right? Because I got my power cable and my capture card cable, so there's like a constant pressure on the back, and just my fingers like holding the 3DS, like because if I wasn't streaming, I would be moving all around my couch in different positions with the 3DS, right? But because I'm in a stationary position on stream, my fingers get tired. So if I had something like this, at least, it would take away some of that fatigue. Now, if I could get something for a better camera, sure, that'd be great. But as a minimum, I just need something to, and I think this is what you were talking about with the Circle Pad Pro.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, so I don't think that's available for the new 3DS XL.
No, it's not, unfortunately.
So I'm going to do some research as to how I can make it more comfortable, because that's the thing holding me back. Otherwise, For You is there's a lot of stuff I love about it, and it really I was worried that it was going to feel like a lot more like 3U, which 3U feels a little tired for me in the sense that it's maybe a little too old. But For You feels way more polished and just feels better. I realize like the hopping off the hill, hopping off ledges and jumping on monsters, that's endorphins every time. And we could do that in Worlds. And in Rise, honestly, I dislike It's not the same. Riding a monster,
No.
get out of here. I don't want to ride a monster.
Yeah, we'll be talking about
I
that
want to
soon.
jump on its back and stab it. I don't just want to ride it. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with For You. Very early on, but I think that sets the stage a little bit for, has Monster Hunter become too easy? And I'm probably going to throw some shade on Rise and Sunbreak, because I'm going to say yes, it has become too easy. I think we've lost our way a little bit from what I've seen from the last, and I've seen now the last the last 4 generations of Monster Hunter. And
Yeah, you can say you played third, fourth. You've seen 1, and you've seen Gen 5 and Gen Portable 5.
Yeah. So the last 4 iterations.
You've got experience under your belt. Trust me. And that's one of the reasons why we're not talking about, originally, for everyone who saw the last podcast, I said, next podcast we're going to talk about is your first Monster Hunter your favorite Monster Hunter. That may not be the case. But I realized, Jay's playing one of the best Monster Hunters right now, especially in story, and he loves story. Yep. So we're gonna come back to that, because we don't need to talk about GU. I'm sorry, GU fans. So I'm gonna explain why. Because there's story. It's just game. That's all it is. Right. The thing is, it's a lot of game, by the way. And GU is a great game. But here's the thing: if you really liked how Rise was really in and out, like into a quest, out of a quest, into a quest, out of a quest, GU has that same kind of feel. That's Sunbreak we're talking about, because Sunbreak actually gave us more of a story. The thing is, but in Rise, if you liked how that felt, then that's kind of how GU feels.
There's not a lot that I like about what Rise feels like, and I think I'm gonna poo-poo on Rise a lot. Like when I say Rise, it's Rise Sunbreak. Because as a game, out of all the games, I feel Rise Sunbreak caused me to rust a lot. I play all the other games worse because of what Rise Sunbreak did to me. It's very fluid, and I will admit I don't play Rise Sunbreak at like an optimal level or at like a pro level. I think there's so much more that can be done with the wire bugs and all these other things. I just find it's a bit overwhelming, and the fact that I'm basically killing everything so easily without being fully optimal is just, it feels monotonous in a way where, I think that's what it is. There's none of that like reward factor. You need the struggle to get the reward.
Ooh.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of things in Rise Sunbreak that give me the endorphin hit. Like, think about it right now. I assume you know what I mean when I say an endorphin hit.
Oh, I do.
Like, my most iconic fight ever is the Velkhana fight from Iceborne, the Arc-Tempered Velkhana fight. Every time I mounted Velkhana, woof, endorphin. When I finally like got the rocks to fall on her, another endorphin hit. Like, there's all these little moments, and I like Sunbreak was able to do it because in their new jungle map, there's a zone where you can drop rocks on monsters. And when I did that, when I realized, I can drop the rocks, I got that hit. I was like, why was this not in Rise? It made me realize how much I missed something that, I learned in
stuff.
Yeah, the fact that, you're fighting the monster, there's stuff going on, you're like, wait a minute. And then like in World, I loved setting up traps like that with the environment.
Yeah. It made you feel like a clever hunter using his, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Predator. You're like, come kidding me. And next, choo-choo trap. You're like, haha.
Yeah. The first time I did it was against Anjanath. I had just started, and I think most of us, that's where we learned how to do it.
Yeah, the rocks.
Because you're scared because you're fighting this huge monster. You're not like skilled yet if it's your first game. And when they're like, the game teaches you, they're like, hey, look, the rocks. And I think the handler even tells you like, throw like your slinger at the rocks. And then when it drops and you see the Anjanath down and flailing, like, oh my God, that's so awesome. Is there anything like that in Rise? Am I missing something? Like, can you use, you can't, you just wall bang all the time, right?
No, we're gonna go into it. Oh boy!
Please, I just go.
Let's break it down, because boy, we're gonna get to them. Don't worry. All right, here we go. Because by the way, you even commented on something. I was like, I know exactly what I want to say to Jay about Velkhana mounting, but we're gonna wait for it. Okay. And you're gonna be like, ooh. So so the topic of today, as you heard us say, it is going to be, has Monster Hunter gotten too easy? And now that's an interesting topic, because that literally comes up in every single game. Like, how like people keep saying they want an easy mode, and for Dark Souls they keep talking about how it keeps happening. Well, sure enough, from when 3U, 4U, GU, and what's it called, and Monster Hunter World, and then when we got to Rise, that topic has come up multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes you start to wonder, has it been getting easier? Well, you know, that comes to the second thing, which is also, well, some people will be like, oh no, because that's because it's hard because it's your first Monster Hunter. Your first Monster Hunter is your hardest Monster Hunter, and I actually disagree with that.
I also did. I will disagree with that as well.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, you started in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and now you're able to compare Rise to 3 Ultimate. And in your opinion, which one is harder? Based off if you went from Iceborne to one of those two games, which one's harder?
Oh, 3U is harder. I have yet to finish my pledge there. And like, if you tell me right now, let's go play 3U, I will have fear because I'm like, no, I don't want to go back. It's so hard. It's not that it's just hard. It's that it's grindy. Like people are like, it wouldn't be so hard if you grinded. And I'm like, the grind scares me. It's such a hard grind. They're like, oh, you're so lucky because you have a community and it helps you grind. But it's like the fact that you have to hunt 30 to 50 monsters sometimes just to get the one mantle. Like, and you could an argument can be made. Maybe that's the difficulty of the older games is it's the rarer drops. And I will say, yes, 1 point. Yes, it makes it harder, but that's not why I think it's harder.
So that's funny because, like, you see, what you're talking about there is things becoming also more streamlined. Because, you know, for example, like you talk about the grind. Keep in mind also the gathering grind. That was a thing. Farming, going out of your way for that type of stuff. That was things you had to go out of your way to go do. And like, think about it, in Rise, did you ever feel like you needed to go out and gather malachite and stuff like that?
No, and I missed it. I missed it. I hate that they removed it. Thing.
See, you admit that you kind of miss that gathering part. Like
I never asked for them to remove it.
Forge the stuff again, because you felt like you were putting everything together, preparing for a hunt. Especially in Monster Hunter 1, you got the experience.
Okay, I gotta share a little story of like Baby J when he started in World. There's a part. Well, actually, it was when I was walled by Arc-Tempered Velkhana. I had done some research and learned that maybe it was Alatran. Yeah, it was Alatran. I had learned he was weak to Dragon Seal. I think was the skill. Was that a skill?
That is a thing. Dragon Seal. I'm trying to remember what it does with him.
Turns out it wasn't a great solution. But anyways,
no.
At this moment, I thought that's what I needed, and I knew that the Nergigante switch axe gave me that. And I remember I was actually not on stream. I had done a little bit of farming off stream, and I went to the Guiding Lands and I'm looking for my rocks. And it was in the Guiding Lands. You have to get the rare spawn, you have to like mine all the other rock to get the level. Do you remember that?
Yes, in the Guiding Lands, you had to basically, yes, like you said, when you would mine a node, it would increase the level, eventually go level 4, 5, 6, 7, and stuff like that.
That's
So
right.
eventually the highest one would spawn, you get it, and then it resets it back to a lower, and you have to keep going.
So I was doing that, and I just felt like, I was getting ready for my stream, and I felt like I was just getting the parts I needed. And I was like preparing. And I've talked about this on my videos and my journals about, especially the Monster Hunter 1, I praised for like, whoa, it feels so much more like a Hunter part. And the big discussion I see in the comments is oftentimes, yeah, you love it now, but it gets old when you're a veteran, or it gets old when you do it game in and game out. And I agree with that, and I have the solution, and I haven't really explored this on any video, so this is where I'm sharing the solution for the first time. I think the Monster Hunter games, the early game should be that grind, and 4U does that. And as you unlock more abilities like the farm and other things, you can eliminate that grind. I don't think it needs to be a case of this or that. I think you can have both. And I think a new hunter and a veteran hunter could appreciate a more hunter-esque experience and more gathering in the beginning of the game. It also, I think, adds more flavor, if you will, to the low rank hunts. And then when as you get into G rank and you get like, it even plays to the like narrative of you are becoming a more capable hunter. So therefore, like maybe these menial tasks, you have ways of automating them or simplifying them. Like why? Oh, another example, when you go mining in the old games, right? It's three 3 hits or whatever. In Rise, you just ride up on your dog and you go clunk and you get like 3-4 nodes. Why can't that be tied to like an experience level of your hunter where maybe by the time you're master rank 100, oh, you've just unlocked single node farming because you're experienced now.
Wow, that kind of taps into a topic for a whole nother day. I created a Monster Hunter TTRPG, and that's kind of a feature in a way. And it was this thing is the evolution of your hunter, whether it be gathering, plus there's handlers, there's a whole thing. That's why I'm not going to get into it because it's long. Sure. But no, you're onto something by saying I also would have liked to see something where there's more grind in the beginning, but then things can be easier. For example, we have like farms. Look at the Meowcenaries, being able to send them out to go get stuff for you. Yep. And we've had other games too where you can actually send out multiple palicos to go do missions and stuff for you and come back with supplies. Actually, matter of fact, even Monster Hunter World Iceborne, they had that too, if you remember. They could go out. And like I think that is like an evolutionary way of handling it in the game to where you're doing it yourself at first. Yep. And then eventually you can like delegate it to someone else to take care of it for you.
And that's option. So if a player doesn't want to delegate it, they don't have to.
Yeah, and they don't have to. Right. And then especially if maybe there's that one super rare thing like you talked about the end of the Guiding Lands where the final node is always the most rare and it resets. Mm-hmm. That would be a thing where that's the one item though you do have to go out for. You know, you have to at least still go grind for that or something. That way it's not constantly everything else. It's just that one thing because that way it's truly rare, something you had to go get. I think that would be a good idea.
It just needs a little bit more nuances, and they have it all there. They just have to tie it together a little differently. Mm-hmm. But anyways, we're talking about has it become too easy, and I feel
we're finding solutions for the game.
Yeah. But
that's a different topic.
Everyone has heard my opinion. What about you, Blue? Do you find it has become too easy as the more experienced one here?
All right. So when it comes down to has it become too easy, I'm going to talk a lot about it, but I was going to save this for the end. But I'll say it now if you want.
Yep, TLDR.
Okay, so to TLDR, yes and no, but I'm going to give you a real answer. But so when it comes to the Monster Hunter, it's gotten more streamlined, but the level of difficulty, in my opinion, has remained. So in that aspect, I would say I think it's still hard. And as you know, I'm somebody who's never struggled. I played. I beat 3U, all the event quests, the super hard amped versions of like monsters. I soloed those. When it comes down to like Monster Hunter, Sunbreak and such, as I said, like I beat all of it in my high rank gear or whatever. When I went to master rank, all the way to MR 100, and I never failed a single quest. And things of that nature, but. So for me, I'd be like, oh, clearly the game's not a challenge for you, but I can still acknowledge that I think it's still a hard game, whether it's new or not. And I know that for a fact because I'll tell you, as much as I say I'll never fail the quest, Monster Hunter World, I failed to Teostra. I lost to him because I played with the switch axe. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to use greatsword. I'm not going to use heavy bowgun. I'm not going to use lance. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use a different weapon. I'm going to use Swax. So I chose Swax. And I was playing through my adventure in the Swax. I got to Teostra, a monster I fought numerous times. I know that guy in my sleep. And I lost to him. And I was like, oh, it must have been a fluke. Lost to him twice. I was like, what the heck? So then I pulled out my heavy bowgun. It's my first heavy bowgun I built of Monster World, and I murdered him. And I was like, all right, there we go. But the thing is, I'm like, there we go. Like, didn't stand a chance. I laughed at him. I beat the snot out of him, honestly. Right. And the thing is, but I was like, all right, but either way, but I could be in such. But the thing is, he beat me, and I'm a veteran. But it was the thing of, and a monster I fought plenty of times. But the game, based off the game you're currently playing, the mechanics and everything you're going through, are consistent with what you're doing. So, like I was saying though, so we may have lost some immersion that we talked about, and also some simulation aspects. Because there's that's Monster Hunter 1 and 2 specifically. And a little bit of try. But every game is difficult for one reason or another. If you had to hold me to a standard, say it's gotten, quote, easier, it depends on the person. And no doubt it has gotten simpler. But easy is a strong word. Again, I've seen classic veterans who have a hard time keeping up with the speed of Gen 5. I've seen fivers who have had a hard time with the style of the classic style. I think they have retained their difficulty, but it changes depending on the title, what type of difficulty there is. Many people fail at the underwater combat, but no matter how much of a veteran you are, like me, I was lucky. Like I'm a third fleeter. It's you were merely adopted to water combat. I was born in it, molded by it. I love the underwater combat.
Love
and the
it.
thing is,
Oh.
I love it, I love it. I do, and it's something because I feel like it also makes the world feel complete, whole. There's aspects that I like. I love the Guy Cruise. The Guy Cruise is my favorite monster.
I love the
I don't want him
concept.
to return.
I love the concept of underwater. I
Well,
would love
bear
to
with me.
see the execution polished off. But go
And
on.
I think it can be because I love that monster. And everyone's like, oh, I want him back, I want him back. I said, I don't.
No?
And that's my favorite monster because I said, until we get underwater combat,
Yeah.
bring back maybe Ivory or something like that. That's fine. But not Legaia Cruise, not Abyssal. Leave them in the water because that is part of their kit. And that's how I love them. And the way that people complained about the way the movement and everything was for old Monster Hunter, and then when Monster Hunter 5 happened, like World Iceborne, and it became more quote unquote fluid and stuff like that. The way that the combat got revamped, if they did that for underwater combat now, because of how much technology has changed,
Yeah.
I think we could have a whole different conversation about underwater combat.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But does it suck with what we have now? Yeah, it's not that great. But I do love it.
I do love the fact that, especially the fight you're referring to with Laggy is, he goes on land and then he jumps in the water and you have to like jump in the water to chase him. And then he's like, I'm the king here. And you're like, you certainly are, sir.
Yeah, like Ludroth. Look at how you felt about Royal Ludroth.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
like in Rise, he was a nothing burger to you. Then you
Nothing.
fought him in his element, in the water, and suddenly he was way more memorable to you. And like we fought him on land, the water, etc.
But I think that's another problem with Rise is the fact that nothing felt memorable. and
Unfortunately.
like, did anything feel okay? So you have experienced new Monster Hunters like as they release. I've only gone to experience that once, which is really going from
Sure.
World to Sunbreak with the whole hype. Did you
Yeah,
at
Gen 5
any
to Gen 5.
did you at any point feel rewarded, like that rewarding feeling in Rise and Sunbreak? Is there anything that you can point to and was like, oh, that was a rewarding moment?
I'm so sad that I cannot defend that comment. I can't. No, you're right. It's the thing of this is a problem I have with Rise, and I don't want to add more to any of the Rise hate train. And because here's the thing about Rise.
It's not hate. It's an observation.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, like, I was talking about this. I said on stream, I said Rise is because I talk about how Rise is probably my least favorite Monster Hunter. I'll say that out loud. And the thing is, but it doesn't make it a bad game. It's like a 4 out of 5 game. Just because it's 4, that's a great game. But you go, yeah. But it's the thing of when you have like, all these quote unquote masterpieces, it's the thing of like, somebody, it's like Olympic athletes. Everyone's amazing, but you have to have a bronze medal. It's that kind of thing. It's the thing of Rise is a great game. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy everyone's playing on Xbox, PlayStation, everywhere that there is to play it now because it's available everywhere. And I'm very excited for them. They sold 12 million copies of Rise. They have whatever it's I think 7 million Sunbreak. Like it's doing well. I want it to do well.
You're making it sound like we're sponsored by Capcom here.
We are not. It's just
I joke.
it's passion and love.
Yes.
So I know. So the thing is, hi Capcom. Anyways, the thing is, but the thing is, those games. If someone said like, "I want to play Rise," I would say go for it because it's a good game. Now, and for some people, it's their favorite game. I've talked to some people who that is their favorite Monster Hunter, and it's not even their first Monster Hunter, but it's their favorite. They actually like that it's getting faster and faster. Right. They want it more and more like Devil May Cry. I don't, but the thing is, but all in all, but Monster Hunter Rise is still a good game. So I'm not gonna bash it in the sense of just be like, oh, I'm on hate train, but I am gonna give it, like you said, the criticism and love it deserves. That, in my opinion. And that's my opinion, because like I said, other people have enjoyed it. Monster Hunter Rise never gave me that dopamine hit like your Volcana mount. Because, here's the thing, you're talking about difficulty. The reason why that Volcana mount felt so good to you is because she was hard. Because she was a difficult Alatreon was hard and stuff like that. Like, go ahead.
Counter to that. because Rise has its hard moments. Apex Zinogre is a very hard fight. The emergency quest of Apex Zinogre. And there is nothing in that fight that I can think of that gives a similar dopamine hit. Because it's the same kind of fight, but it's just amped up. It's just higher damage output. And it's just like you get the reward of just learning the monster and dodging, but there's no like small random like the little random abilities is, oh, you find what do you call the bugs and stuff? Oh, I find, you find a decoy fish fly or whatever that pulls his attention away, or here's a dung beetle I can throw at him. Like there's just less exciting bits. Like even in World and Iceborne, when I'd find toads and I was like, oh, I have a toad, I have an explosive toad, and I can like create an opening. Like you can do that in Rise, but I don't know why it doesn't feel as I just don't get the dopamine hit. Even
what's what's funny about that? My wife, she does not like Rise. She does not like it. As a matter of fact, it's like pulling teeth to have her try to play Sunbreak. And it's the thing of but it's funny because she loves World. She loves it. Remember, that's her first game though. The thing is World Iceborne. So the thing is, and she loves it. But even she, like, I'm a person who says I like the toads being stationary. I like that it's the area that you're in. You use the environment that's presented via that area.
Yep.
She actually likes the idea of picking up the toad and throwing it at things. She actually, as much as she doesn't like Rise, she actually likes the idea of throwing the beetles and adding water blight for easier cuts, stuff like that.
I enjoy that too. Yeah.
The thing is, like, she likes that, and I said I don't, and that's the thing I'll tell you right now. Actually, I like everything being stationary. I prefer it being like you had to bring the monster there and then using the environment. I think that there is a level of balance again that can happen where, like the beetles and such. Yeah, like you used to be able to kick the beetles in World. Pick up like the thing for your slinger, like a bomb pod. I think the same thing. I think that we could do that with the beetles where you could throw the thunder blight. Adding the blights to the monsters, I think is awesome. I like that it gives you the stun, stuff like that. But the problem that we are having with Monster Hunter when people say it's gotten too easy is because the hunter has been becoming too powerful. Yeah. And the last time I would have said that is true was Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. In GU, you'll see this. And that's also Ichinose-san. That you're going to see the same thing where in GU, same thing with Rise Sunbreak, where you have these things called hunter arts. And some hunter arts are absolutely ridiculous and awesome. And everyone here who, when I say things like, hey guys, how about that Valor heavy bowgun or greatsword, striker lance, people know what I'm talking about. I mean, I just gotta say the Chargewell users, you have that one move that I think is criminal that is not in Sunbreak. You all know what it is with the big beam. That move's awesome. But Jay,
that sounds interesting.
It's you want to talk about dopamine hits? Every time I pull that thing off, I'm like, "Ooh, baby!" The thing is, it's so good. But the thing is, with there is a type of balance that's going on in Rise and Sunbreak that with the wire bug things. The problem is it's all about when you need to know what do we want to keep and what do we want to lose. I think having some special abilities tied to some sort of little gauge or something's fine for some special moves. The problem is when you see some things like in Monster Hunter World, I want to do the Helm Splitter for the longsword. I can just do it. If I want to do a Helm Splitter in Rise, I have to use wire bugs, but my wire bugs also are used for maneuverability, traversing, wire falling, my other moves, stuff so that aren't just the Helm Splitter. Yep. It's the thing of like, I wish there was I like that was a normal move. I liked Hunter Arts. Bring some of those back, which they did as wire bug moves, but they also took normal moves and made them into wire bug moves. I didn't like that.
I don't like wire bug moves. Like if I could not have them, I would be happy. I like Hunter Arts more. I just find it annoying that I have to manage that resource. Maybe it's because my weapon is requires enough attention as it is with resource. To add another resource of I can't pull this move because I need a bug. Oh no. And to your point of making the hunters too powerful, I agree with that too, because when you go out, it's not you versus the monster. It's you, your Palico, your Palamute, your two bugs, all these other like endemic life you've picked up, and now you can also bring your friend into the hunt. Like you can bring the NPC, and you can even bring another monster to the fight that you've just wrangled. It's just
yeah. Let's talk about companions for a moment, then, if you don't mind.
Let me just finish the thought.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Where I think in other games, the way that we can say it is, you are, and you really feel this in Monster Hunter 1, you are a foreigner in that environment. You are an unknown, you are unwanted. The hunter in the environment is not wanted. In Rise, you are the master of the environment, doing what you want. And I think that is, I think, the core of why we think it's easier. Because you go from being a foreigner learning this new world to being the master right out of the gate.
Sure, it's that thing I was saying about I made the joke about Predator. That's the thing. Like, there's this hunter and prey type of feel between the two of you. But in Rise, we are all hunter. The monsters are all prey. And the idea is that you see things like Malzeno and its lore and Magnum, all of that, you want to have fear in you. Like when you saw Nier Gigante for the first time,
God, he's eating a
fear in you.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, Nier Gigante busts through the thing. She's all like, roar. Like all these Gajalakas are like, rah, and stuff like that. And his roar is intimidating. He's very imposing. He's constantly coming at you. He's dive bombing you. He feels large and in charge. Like you feel like a mouse fighting like a big bulldog.
But when you before that, Anjanath, he feels the great Jagras. You're like, you've been like killing these baby Jagresses, and then the great one comes out. You're like, oh, he's so big. And I don't know if you were scared of him, but he intimidated me.
I'll tell you one of my favorite Monster Hunter stories. One of my favorite Monster Hunter memories, and it actually comes from World. I was playing with my wife and two of our buddies who live in California, him and his brother, and we maybe got up to, at this point, maybe Pookie. Like, we all beat the Great Jaggers around that time. Like, but we weren't very far. We weren't even anywhere near the Anjanath. But we all went on an expedition together. Oh, okay. And so we're all, keep in mind, we're all are wearing maybe at best Pookie gear. Right. And because again, you have Kuliaku. That's it. That's what it was. We all beat Kuliaku. No one of us have even beat Pookie yet. Pookie's the third monster. And we're all like, we want to go fight the Anjanath. That's the one we want to take down. We're like, oh. So we go in and we all fight him together and whatever. And like, they're carting like crazy or whatever. It's so funny. Like, I'm trying to be the instructor, be like, do this. It's okay, guys, do that. All this stuff. I'm like, recover, great hit, and all these things. But we do it. We down him, and the amount of roars and cheers and the way that battle was just back and forth nonstop. Again, because we were getting 1 to 2 shotted. But it felt so fun and victorious as a group, and that hooked all of them so quickly. And I love that memory, because anyone who's like, Anjanath's not scary, look, I've talked to a lot of hunters, and in that time, I've talked to hunters who literally have quit on Anjanath. I'm not kidding.
It's the first wall, yeah.
So
that reminds me.
Anjanath's awesome.
I
think that's my son's one of his favorite monsters, like top 3.
He's Angie. He's a cool boy. But that reminds me of my similar. I hadn't unlocked Anjanath yet. I was in my early days in World, and I think it was an expedition or something. I was in the woods, and I did it. It was my first encounter with Rathalos. And it's not that I was supposed to hunt him. Yeah. I was looking. I was like looking.
You were so scared.
I was looking at Aptonoths. I was like, "What's going on here?" And then there's a shadow that came. I was like, "What is this?" And a Rathalos came down. I didn't know what a Rathalos was. I was just like, "What is this dragon?" Like, I've just finished like fighting a lizard iguana thing, and now there's this thing that comes from the sky and is eating the Aptonoth. Like, that's terrifying. There is nothing. There is no moment like that in Rise. There's nothing that scares you as a hunter. There's just nothing where you're like, oh, that's terrifying. Like, not freaking Magnamalo gets introduced as just a big bad dog after a rampage. And then he runs, and then he runs away for some reason. I don't remember quite what scares him away. But he shows up.
And Magnamalo runs off. He for Magnamalo, he sees the Ozeros he brought in, and you guys are trying to get away from Magnamalo. Then the Ozeros starts scuttering away, and he's all like, "Oh, hey, I'm not done with you yet," and he runs off.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, but so in Rise, there's just nothing. There's no moment like that. Like, I'm trying to think of. of all the monster. Oh, that's because the monsters are not introduced when you see them. They're introduced before you even get into the level.
Exactly. Now it's funny, on our list of podcast discussions, one of them is, but I was waiting for Sunbreak to be done. It's going to be Generation 5 versus Generation 5, which is basically Rise Sunbreak versus World Iceborne, which we're kind of doing now, but
Yeah.
but that's okay. It's just because I do want to bring up, yeah, like I like the cutscenes, and you see this when you're playing through you and playing for you.
Yeah.
When you get to the area, it introduces you there. I mean, heck, even when you fought for you, you saw the Great Jagras, which you've seen before in 3U, but they do a thing where they
Well,
start you on the mount in the Great Jagras.
the
in
great
4U.
Jaggy.
Jaggy.
Yes.
Thank you. We're talking about Jagras. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. The Great Jaggy. Oh, I love Great Jaggy. But they start you on that mount immediately. And it's a very exciting moment, and if you don't know how to do the mount mechanic, which Jay, I'm going to teach you it real quick. So
I know how now.
Oh, okay, just making sure, because you got thrown off last time. I was like, come on, Jay, you got this.
When the face is red, you got to hold and not attack, and when the face is green, then you spam.
Got it. See, everyone, he's a master hunter, and that's the thing I always say about Jay. Jay
doesn't always get it at first.
Well, no, it's the thing. It's funny. You always say that you're an average monster hunter. And I'm like, Jay is not average. He is a great hunter. He has done great things. He is a very good hunter. But the thing about Jay is that Jay either A, forgets something that he already knows, or B, because we know Mr. Underlevel over here, he makes the game harder for himself. Like, he handicaps himself.
Through impatience.
Yeah.
Not intentionally.
So because of it, but he always overcomes it, which just shows how good he actually is, and that's what makes you so entertaining to watch. Because
I think it's the perseverance. It's not that I'm good. I'm just very stubborn.
Well, I think you're very good.
I mean, Melania, I've died maybe 150 times. I'm just like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Actually,
look how good you got, though.
You know the joke in cartoons where like the character gets tossed out the window and he just runs back in to fight and gets tossed out the window? That's me.
Yep, that is you. But like I was saying, though, when it comes down to comparison, the comparison of being introduced into the thing is so much better, because in all other Monster Hunters, you can get dropped off early in random spots in front of the monster. Notice Rise and Sunbreak don't have that. You never, not once, ever, are dropped off in front of the monster. Like, oh no, the thing that flew you into the mission, you landed in a weird spot. You always start at camp. You start at the base camp every time.
You're very rarely inconvenienced when I think about it. There's actually nothing. Is there anything that conveniences you in Rise? There's never any time where they're like, we're going to take this away from you. Well, sure, but there's nothing like that says we're going to take this away from you. And in the old games, actually every game before that, there was always the option of taking something away from you, even if it was less and less in the newer gens. Because in like 3U, yes, they drop you in front of the monster, but then they also take away your item box, and you have to wait 10 minutes for it to arrive.
Mm-hmm.
What else do they take away?
There's even a food skill for that, where you can get a food skill. I think there's even skills like on your armor that makes it appear quicker.
Oh yeah, there's also negative skills, which
negative skills
is another thing.
Great. I like negative skills. I am advocating for them to return. I think what they should do is they should have where we have the solid blocks, which I like. I like that you instantly just get things. You don't have to do the math, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about, you only got a fraction of the level. Sorry, you need 10 points. You only got 8. I like. There was some nice thing about that, because usually armors only had like 5 or less skills. I miss those days instead of having like 2 pages worth of skills.
Fair.
But it's the thing of but having just a straight up, yep, this is a positive, is great. The same way I think they should have also, this is a negative. I think that they should do that, so that way you think you have to balance out your gear, and we might get back to the idea of having only 5 skills again. Right. And by doing that. And also having negative skills. I think that those should come back. I like negative skills. I
think it's cool to have a trade-off. And I agree. I don't want to go back to the numbers of, you're at plus 10, you're at plus 15, you're at plus 20. It's like, there's so much math involved. It's either you have it or you don't. Plus 1 or plus 2.
At that point, most of the time, you're just building the full set at that point. There's no mixed sets anymore.
Right.
You're just like, you want this skill? Just build the whole set of that monster.
Pretty much.
But yeah, and the only way you're going to offset your negatives, go get a charm that's going to help get rid of some of those negatives, so you just don't have the negatives. But But yeah, so but negative armors, I want that back. But that's the example of people being like, "Oh, look, it's gotten easier." But I
Yep.
also go, that's correct. Not having negatives, but some negatives are cool. In Generations Ultimate, there is a skill. I'm gonna say it's in GU. I don't think it's for you. That if you get this negative, it makes it where when you're like in a hot environment, you get like hot faster, or a cold environment, you get cold faster. But there's another skill you can get that turns that into a positive. It turns the negative skill into a positive skill and
Okay.
stuff like that. And it's really cool. So the idea is that if you drink a hot drink in a hot environment when you're overheated,
Yeah.
instead it gives you a buff instead of a negative. Stuff like that. Like
Oh.
there's some cool
Well,
skills like that. There's another skill which is like reverse like resistance. If you
mhm.
have like a negative like resistance, it turns that like negative 20 is actually positive 20.
Well,
Stuff like
Sunbreak
that.
has some of that with the Valstrax armor has like a lot of punishing abilities that like it's a high risk, high reward if I recall correctly.
I think it has a thing where it gives you Dragon Blight if you're like at half HP or something like that. But by the way, let's not talk about Rise armors because some of them just become completely broken and ridiculous. And
Oh yeah.
that's something you want to go talk to Mini Guy about. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, there's some stupid builds.
So I'm not as well versed in armor building. I kind of suck at it. So I haven't seen that side of the difficulty scale. But so you're saying the new armors are just much easier.
More ridiculous than they were before. Yes, and then but yeah, that's a story for another day. I know this is the time we should be talking about it, but the one thing you talked about earlier, though, you mentioned bringing all these people with you on quests. Yeah, look at companions. It's the thing of like in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite and Try, we had one companion. We had a Palico and we had Cha Cha. Then you have things like in 3 Ultimate, you got Cha Cha and Kayamba,
Mm-hmm.
and then you had in Portable Third, you could take I think 2 Palicos with you. And then in Monster Hunter, technically in Monster Hunter 3U, you could actually have a hunter, another like you and me could go hunting. I'll bring my cha cha, you bring your cha cha. So there's 4 right there.
Yeah.
Then we have things like in same thing. We go to I think 4U, and then we go to I think Generations Ultimate, and then we have um Monster Hunter World Iceborne again. You could have a Hunter, Hunter, Palico, Palico. But
Right.
then we get ridiculous when we get to Rise Sunbreak. You can have 4 hunters and 4 buddies. That's
Right.
8 things
8 slots.
on the field.
Yeah.
That's by the way, here's that's gonna make you go, no way. Yeah. If you do the story with someone and they're at the part where you get to play with Fio, like during the
So
urgent quest, you get to
yeah.
have Fio
Oh
Dame
right. Yeah.
Fiorine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get to play with Fio, you get Fio and the 8 people. So there's 9 of you.
Yeah. That's just ridiculous. The monster's like, oh my god, there's an army coming at me right now.
Yeah, like it's just, but again, it's not balanced back to it. Now that's the thing where people could say, "Oh, well, just don't bring your buddies then." That's how you balance it back out.
Right.
And I have people I play with who, yeah, we don't bring our buddies. We just all 4 of us will go hunting. And another thing, it's because but then there's another thing about buddies, like you get the Palamutes. The Palamutes make you run faster, and like while I've proven that I've raced people with Palamutes with just my cat, and
Yeah.
I've wire bugged outran them. It is possible. Palamutes are technically faster, but if you know your route really well, you don't even need a Palamute, and the cats are just better. I'm gonna say it out there. I put it out there, everyone. I'm standing by that. Cats are more useful. So anyway, but the thing is, but that adds to the movement and fluidity that we get. Like you can sharpen on the move,
Yep.
and you can eat on the move with a Palico in
No.
combat.
No flexing.
Yeah. That's another thing too. That's right. We've lost flexing and like moments to stop. Now people can say, "Oh, you just had to run out the zone anyway." Some areas you can't do that. Like you are stuck in one room
Hmm.
and you're just no going anywhere. So how's that work?
Right.
So that's still there. Also Monster Hunter Rise, there's only ever 2 monsters in the arena at a time. There's never 3. Anyway, so yeah, and also Monster Hunter Rise, when monsters fight each other, um, after they've had their quote unquote interaction,
Right.
they'll always just run away from each other. I had on stream recently during my Demo Gear challenge, I had Lunastra and Nier Gigante fight each other for 50 minutes. I
50?
was 50. Like it's on stream. I admit I failed that quest. It was the only one failed quest in my entire journey
Mm.
and of the Demo Gear challenge because I timed out. I timed out because I couldn't. Had to use sword and shield. I couldn't get in between them because my gear's so lousy that I was
Oh,
getting one shotted. So I was like, oh, because it's the demo gear, and I was like, oh, this is so hard. And then the next hunt, I got to do it again with the light bow gun, so I had
right.
range, and I cleared it in like 30 minutes. But and I skulled both of them too, which is funny. So, but it was just this thing of like, but I watched those two go at it nonstop for
Hmm.
like 45 minutes, and I was just like get a room, you two, like
Right.
stop.
That
It
was
was my fault. I should have brought poo. That's what I should have done.
should have pooed on them. I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, I never realized that difference of the monster combat.
Mhm.
Because that's the problem with, World was my first impression, and I haven't had the chance to go back to it. So I still
Mhm.
have kind of first impression memories of it. I want to go back
Mhm.
in the context of understanding the Monster Hunter universe better. Um, but one day we'll get there.
Well, we've also lost like the immersion of like you may talk about seeing Rathalos come down and eating the Aptonauts and such.
Yeah.
Those things actually exist in Rise, but the problem is once you've entered an area with the monsters, they just notice you and go, "Oh, let's go." There is no like ghillie suit to observe them and take their
Yeah.
pictures and just watch their ecology and such. And in older Monster Hunter, you had like the videos that watch their ecology,
Yeah.
but if you actually also notice things that you mentioned, you play Monster Hunter 1, you see the moss swine go after the mushrooms because that's what he wants to eat. Like those type of things
And
still
you have
existed.
to, because there's not a big shiny that says, pick me, I'm a
Hmm.
mushroom. You have to actually
Right.
be like, what was he sniffing there? And then you push A or whatever next to it. It's like, you found a mushroom. You're like, what?
Yep.
So, and
Yeah.
also everything was a lot more subtle in the first one. Like it blended with the environment, maybe a little bit too much.
For sure.
But now
But again,
it's you're a master of the environment. You have Kahoot flying over the map. So it's like, here's the monster here, 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 here. Sorry, you were going to
but
say?
yeah. Oh, I was gonna say, but yeah, like Cahoots just tell you where they are on the map. There is no paintball, there's no tracking. I
Yeah.
liked the tracking. Matter of fact, I talk about ways that they can make the tracking even better. I like the idea of hunting the monster, and I want more of that. Then you have, like I said, but there's lots of things that have also made it easier. We were talking about your gear earlier. Like you don't have to carry nets, whetstones, rods, barbecue spits
Yep.
anymore. Like any of that. That's more room that you have for your inventory. And not to mention inventory. The inventory's got bigger. You have gathering pouches, palamute pouches. We have things like even like we got the mantles in World and Iceborne. Those are their own slots. They're not in your inventory.
Right.
And also when you gather things, like say it goes to your gathering pouch with no tools needed. Yeah, like remember you had a carve a monster that took up space in your main bag.
Yep.
And yeah, that was one of the benefits of being a gunner. I liked being a gunner because I would have stuff in my gunner pouch, whatever, and for some reason in my mind, I always thought I was like, oh, I have more space. I don't. Just my brain always accumulated, oh, I have more space, but I really don't.
And if you,
And
like you said, the tools, if you want to mine, you better bring some pickaxes or you're
yeah,
not
and they
mining.
break.
Yep.
Yeah, and they break.
And
Like so
cool,
not only do we
cool drinks, hot drinks, don't have to worry about
yeah,
those
oh,
anymore either.
don't get me on that. I want those back so badly. I like hot drinks. I know it's the thing of, oh, they're not that so detrimental anymore because you just go to a camp and just grab whatever, and then you can just, at that point it's a slight inconvenience. That's why they got rid of them in Rise Sunbreak.
Hmm.
But I thought that was a level again of immersion. I liked how at night it was cold in the desert, and during the day it was hot. I like that. And when I played World, actually, I was upset that when we got to the Wildspire Waste, that
Yeah.
wasn't a mechanic. I
Right.
was actually upset. And then when we got to the lava area or whatever, it's called Elder's Recess. It was like, oh, good, we get to use cold drinks. But where's the hot drinks? Then we've got the ice area of a hoarfrost. I'm like, oh, good,
Right.
hot drinks are back.
It does add to the immersion of, yeah, you're in a cold place, stay hot, or you're vice versa. That you got me thinking. We have the day night cycle, but wouldn't it be cool if in nighttime your visibility was reduced? Could you imagine
Yeah, I
playing
want that.
in the forest at night
That's
and you can only see the outline of a monster and you can't, like, you can hear it, you can't really see it, you can just like see like the branches moving? Oh my goodness, that would be terrifying.
I think that would be awesome. And by the way, those things existed in Monster Hunter, like I want to say one, dos, and try. But try had a lighting thing where you had to
Oh,
bring
the
torches.
lantern, yeah.
And the thing is, yeah, you had to bring torches. and you would light. There's torches in the cave, for example. You could light to help illuminate the cave. Otherwise, the areas you would go into are too dark,
Okay, so they
and
did
there would
try
be
this. Yeah.
yeah. Fighting a Giganox in
Oh,
a cave with
frick,
no light. You
frick.
want to talk about scary? Go do that.
I don't want to
Go
fight.
experience that.
I mean,
The
fighting a
thing is,
Giganox on its own is bad enough.
like, it's amazing. Again, it's but just so I'm gonna be clear, everyone. I'm sorry, but I like Hezu more. But it's the thing of, but still, I appreciate the lighting of that. And by the way, Giganox, I'm sorry, Jay. I think he's an awesome monster, but I like Hezu more still. I know you're a
Oh,
Hezu person too, but
well, I hate both of
I
them
like
for the record, but
I like
Gezu is.
I like both of them.
Could you just imagine though? You're in the forest and then you have like a flare because you're like, what is that? And then you open the flare and you just see it's a massive like, who knows, right? It's first monster you see. It's a massive whatever, and then the light dissipates as the flare stops and it attacks you. You're just like, oh no! And then you could potentially have like a dart that like you can shoot into the monster where they become like their blood becomes like
Or fluorescent. Yeah,
exactly.
like to make paintballs fluorescent. That's actually one of
Oh
the
yeah.
things to talk about that would make, okay, in my TTRPG, that's actually how paintballs work. When you throw them, that's what it's supposed to be. They're dripping paint. That's how you track where they went. And
Oh.
yeah, that's the lore of the
And
paintball.
at
And
night, like
that's
if you hit only one side, you just see that one
see
side.
just that part. So they had this as well in Monster Hunter World when it was first being made in the alpha stage. They
Oh.
had the what are they called? It's bright moss. Bright moss used to be able to use to light up areas,
Hmm.
and you can still see this effect to this day. Where if you shoot bright moss on a monster, it lights up that area. But that was the idea that we're gonna have darker areas,
Oh.
and the idea was that you would shoot bright moss on a monster or on the wall to help illuminate the area.
I could see that being used as like a gimmick for the next gen because like that's ray tracing business right there.
Right.
And all the new consoles and stuff, that's what they want to like they want that's one of the features of next gen gaming is ray tracing, which is
Yes.
lighting tricks basically or more realistic lighting. So that's the kind of mechanic they could add to take advantage of that. Except for the Switch. That's the one platform that couldn't support it.
I know. But the cloud gaming, that's the thing though, is Switch uses cloud gaming like they did for like Hitman, Kingdom Hearts, and there's rumor that we're going to be getting, I think it's the new Modern Warfare 2 and stuff like that that recently came out.
But it has
is also going to be on the cloud gaming. So
it has stigma though. I don't think a Monster Hunter cloud gaming on a Nintendo platform would go over well with anybody considering I think the most Monster Hunter fans are Nintendo fans, considering the history of the. Although the franchise started on a PlayStation
on
console.
PlayStation. It didn't really shift to until Try, and then we still had our PSP titles.
Yeah.
And then now we're on everything. So it's an interesting evolution
It
when it comes
is.
down to that.
Well, World skipped out on Switch, but then Switch got Rise. So
And then it's sad too because the MT framework is actually easier to run than the Reach for the Moon engine. That's the RE engine. That's what it stands for. Anyway, everyone doesn't know that. Everyone, I want to say this here. It's called Reach for the Moon engine. If you don't believe me, go look it up. And it's a hand reaching for the moon. Everyone, it is not Resident Evil engine. And it's not a zombie
I thought
hand.
it was Resident Evil. So Reach for the Moon is the engine they made Monster Hunter Rise in?
Yes. Anyway, so but I just want to be clear when I say like that. It's funny because that engine, which looks amazing, it's by the way, everyone thinks it's Resident Evil because it was first also debuted with Resident Evil, with Resident Evil 7. So that doesn't help its case. But it's the thing of the engine's harder to run than the MT framework engine. So the funny thing is you can actually run the MT framework on the Switch way easier than Rise would run. Therefore, there's no reason Monster Hunter World couldn't be on the Switch. I know that's blowing your mind. But
I don't know enough tech to like intelligently contribute to this conversation. I would assume it's got to be like a RAM or CPU limitation on the Switch.
maybe it's just, but I'll give you one more fun fact about that.
Oh,
my
wait.
old
Sorry, it's probably honestly just a ROM limitation. Like the Switch carts would never have fit World. There's just too many high
Well, it had
texture.
to be a downgraded visual thing, though. That's the thing. Like, because again, my old PC used to run World Iceborne, but then I couldn't run Sunbreak or Rise. I mean, couldn't run Rise, and then that's one of the reasons I got a new PC, my new super beefed up PC.
I'm checking right now how big World is. On my PC, World is, oh, it doesn't
Like a
tell you.
hundred.
It only tells you if I had it uninstalled, but it's still installed here, so I
I think
can't
it's
tell.
100. Hold on, I don't know. I know it's 10 gigs. I think it's 10 gigs. The mini guy he downloaded it one time really
Here it
really
is. I
fast.
found it. It's 51 gigs. Yeah, 51 gigs. No mods, no upgrades or anything. Like that would
Mhm.
never fit on the
How
Switch.
how big is Rise?
Rise. Yeah, good question. Let's see here. Rise is 33 gigs.
Getting there.
It's getting there, but the Switch has had technological upgrades, especially to its cart technology.
Hmm.
Whereas when World came out,
No, yeah.
it wouldn't have had that. I think
At the time, it wasn't an option.
no, I think 16 gig was the biggest for from an economic standpoint. They had 32 gig carts, if I remember right, but like even those were expensive, and I think 64 were starting to exist, but like they would lose money basically. Like it just
Oh, absolutely. Because even 128s exist, and they would lose so much money. They have to be $100 games. Yeah.
right. Like now the price of those has gone down, so I actually don't know. Well, Monster Hunter Rise does fit on a cart, so it's got to be. Now I'm curious. I'm curious what the
Yeah.
size
You look.
of.
How about this? You look at those logistics. I'm gonna ramble off for a little
Yeah, go for it.
bit. So while you look that up, but a few other things that for the audience to listen to, where we talk about what has made Monster Hunter easy to stay on topic. It's again, like I said, the streamline changes, which are things like now we have loadouts, where we can load out armor sets and item loadouts and things of that nature. We have things like there's no more failure in crafting, where before you had to get these books and have them on you, and you could end up with junk and things of that nature. We have cooking and meals are easier. Like you don't get like you can't fail a meal really. You just don't get the thing. You don't because again, there's no negative meals as well. Um and the thing is, he mentioned the playing on handheld earlier. We don't have the little mini screen on the bottom anymore, so now we make it up with a radio wheel. The radio wheel does all the things that the bottom screen used to do. But PSP, we didn't even have that period. And the radio wheel can be used for giving like commands to whether it be palicos or teammates or whatever, emotes and shouts, but stickers and or in chat and all kinds of things of that nature. What you got, Jay? Let's say you want to chime in or want to keep going.
You can keep going. What I'm finding
Okay.
so far, Sunbreak on the Switch was 13 gigs on top of the base game, which I'm still trying to figure out. I think the base game is about 10. So,
But Sunbreak's not on cartridge. That's the thing. Sunbreak is only downloadable on the Switch.
oh, good point. Good point. So
Mhm.
it sounds like they were able to fit on a 16 gig cart Rise,
Yeah,
base Rise.
right. That's their limitation. That was the
They,
challenge of
yeah,
not just making Rise, but again, that wasn't really an option probably for World at the time.
because Rise's original is 6.6 gig when it launched. So the cart, it was a 16 gig cart probably to put that on.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that's easy to compress that all into that card, and then I told you any updates or whatever that's downloaded
right
to
to your,
your Switch.
yep.
So yeah.
Go on. So whatever
Okay.
answer.
So as I was saying, hello. um, but like I mentioned, farming, like again, having to go out and gather things yourself. But there was always things like the farm. Like I missed the immersive farms that existed and things like what was it? I think it was Freedom Unite or Freedom Unite 2. Somebody will know what I'm talking about. There was a full farm and you had to like you also could mine there was a mine you can get and somebody's gonna know which one it was. I played again. I told you I have memory of a goldfish. So you're gonna have to bear with me. Also, I played so many of them. Which one was which? But there were some really cool farms that were immersive and that you had to like till and take care of. But like nowadays, it's just like, oh, you walk up. Even the Argosy was less interesting when I played World and Iceborne. It was just like attached to this guy already, rather than when you play something like 3U, it's a guy who comes in, he has a schedule, and he comes with items. You can create trade and stuff like that.
And there
That
were
was cool.
unique items.
Yeah, that you can only get from him,
Yeah.
and like that was cool. But instead, it was just a menu, And I complained about this with Pokemon with the latest one, which I really like actually the new Pokemon that came out. But I got mad because all the buildings, except for like three of them, are all menus. You literally walk into the building, but it's just a menu. You're not in the building at all. And so I don't like that. I want to be able to go into the building. I want to have be more immersed. And so, but yeah. So then you have let's see what else. Oh, mentioning when it comes down to farming though, one of my favorite modes though, Prowler mode. I love Prowler mode in GU, and I think you're gonna love it too. But it's fun, and that was to me was the solution of making farming easier but still fun. But go ahead, Jake. What you got?
I was going to say, you mentioned a lot about loadouts and stuff. It definitely makes the game easier, but I would argue, I don't think anybody's like, I wish they didn't have like pre-save load. I think that is a quality of life update.
That's what I was talking about. Streamlined, yeah.
Yeah.
Make it easier, just makes it more streamlined.
Makes it more comfortable and efficient. And you could argue it's easier, but you know that there's good difficulty, and then there's unnecessary difficulty.
Well, the thing about making things easier, the reason why that does make it easier is we talked about the hot and cold drinks. The reason why those are less detrimental now is because how many times, Jay, did you go onto a hunt and go, I brought the wrong drinks?
Too many.
So the thing is, exactly. So if you just could just have a loadout, you knew which ones you wanted, boom, you got it, you jump in.
Yeah.
It was something about having to prepare all your gear manually. Some people go, I like that more. Like there's a Monster Hunter and Monster Hunter 1 in OG version where the box is one page. It's one page for your box. So you have to sell your stuff. Like you're constantly managing your inventory at home.
I don't like
as
that.
well.
I don't like that. Well, Monster Hunter 1, you have to take your inventory. If you want to get something forged, you need to take your monster parts from your home box, go to the smithy and be like, please make me some armor. Like it doesn't just auto carry over. You have to manually bring that over to the smithy, which is charming to some degree. Unnecessary, but charming. Like I wouldn't wish that to come back, but yeah, it does add to the immersion. But to your point with the hot and cold drinks, I think another thing is going back to the whole, I'm going to stick on this master of the environment. It's the fact that there's no consequence to not preparing.
Yes.
A key element of Monster Hunter is if you are not a proper hunter and you did not prepare, you will face the consequence. Right. And I can't think
I like that about old Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I can't think of anything in Rise where you're like, oops, I forgot to do this, because you just go back to your tent and you fix your oopsie. You can have a meal in your tent. You can take out all your items.
Yeah, 99% of your oopsie can be fixed at your tent.
Right. There's no consequence for your actions.
So, yeah, the only time you'd be like, oopsie, is something like, oh, I forgot to craft this deco and put it in my slot because you don't have it. You know, it's the thing of like, oops, I forgot to buy more ammo for my gun. It's like, it'll be harder to craft on the field. But like, I told you, 99% of what you're going to deal with, it can be solved easily. And one solution I actually have for what they should do to bring back some old with the new is I think that they should make it where when you go on a hunt, you're allowed to load up a box. You know the supply box that you get? Instead of they give me the free items, let you have one row. So it's kind of like one row for each hunter because there's 24 slots. So that's 4 rows, 8 each. And you basically put what you want in your top slot. The second guy puts stuff in his second slot. Third slot. So basically anything you want for a resupply is limited in that box. And if you guys also all coordinate what you want to bring in that box, essentially.
I'm going to take it one step further and say you can at base, you can say, this is my box, what I want in it. But when you're out on the hunt, it's not available until you signal for it. And when you signal for it, it doesn't just appear automatically. You have to wait 5-10 minutes for it to arrive.
Yeah, I think that also works.
I think that's a lot more immersive. You shouldn't need the box. It's an, oh shoot, I'm in a dire position. I need backup. Flare goes up. The base, and the story behind it would be, oh, they see it. Let's get this box to the hunter who's out there. And, I think 5 minutes is a fair wait because that means, let's say you run out of potions. You can't just go, poof, I'm back at the tent. I refill with potions. I have to survive for 5 minutes until my backup arrives. And then either it parachutes down or, I don't know, a cart arrives with your box.
Yeah, imagine if you could also hot drop it to one of the multiple camps. So it doesn't have to always be the base camp. You could bring it
Right.
to that one camp or something like that. Um, but yeah, I honestly I think that would be awesome. Again, like my thing also because my TTRPG was like that, where you could load up your box, like I said. But the cool thing was also though you had inventory to manage. So if you had to go gather stuff, let's say like eggs or minerals, you had to put them in your box. So therefore, if you fully brought a full box and then you need to bring stuff back, you go, oh, if it doesn't fit in your inventory or your pockets, you have to
Mhm.
put it in your box. If your box is full, now you gotta choose what are you leaving
Oh,
behind.
there's a consequence to the
Yeah. Yeah.
action.
Yeah. So again, but yeah, but then but other like changes and things that are new. We talk. Here's the thing about maybe not streamline, but just technology because we're talking about so much tech. What about the controllers? We had to deal with the claw, like back in the
Nope,
day, back when
nope.
you played
Nobody
PSP.
needs that.
We have handhelds, which you've experienced, which people like their handhelds, but me and you were like, my hands feel cramped. My hands are not meant to make this weird C shape. Like as if I put them together, make a
Yeah,
rectangle.
yeah. It's
Anyway, and
like,
then and then we have modern controllers, which feel comfortable, and you play with the one you want, whether it be the Xbox, the Switch, or the PlayStation. People
mhm.
get to play with their choice of controller.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's made things quote unquote easier is the controller scheme and the controllers we use. Because let's face it, you would way rather use your Thrustmaster than use the handheld controller, like the actual 3DS itself.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
3DS.
See?
What actually one of the things I was a little bit worried with for you is it's the only game I can't play on a console. 3U is available on
I
console.
know.
GU is available on console. And I was like, oh my god, I have to play on it. And I love the 3DS. It's my favorite handheld. I just can't. Well, I couldn't imagine myself playing a game that's as control intensive as Monster Hunter on a 3DS controller. Like I'm okay playing more like Professor Layton, for example. It's slow, you draw
Hmm.
things. I played the Ninja Gaiden game on the DS. I don't know if you've ever played that one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I know the
all
one. I have it. Yeah, it's called. Oh, it has a special name too. I think it's called Ninja Gaiden DS or something. DX.
Dragon Scroll or something.
Dragon. Yeah, the Dragon Scroll. Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
It's
Dragon Sword Scroll or
it's
something.
all with the stylus and you hold it.
You hold it vertical.
Yeah. Somehow I
Yeah.
beat that game. But anyways, what was I saying? It was yeah, so after my first stream of holding the 3DS, like I said earlier, it gets uncomfortable. And this was on the easy monsters. I'm like, "Oh, on the harder monsters, this is going to be painful. Like it's going to be hard." That's another one that I think we can leave that difficulty in the past. I think that's fake difficulty
Hmm.
or inefficient difficulty.
Hmm. And then, but all the things that again, as we approach our time, it's the thing of let's see where we at. We're at okay. We talked about the environments. Yeah, the environment changes. Like technically, those have gotten easier because now we have more access. We can jump off ledges. We can drop rocks on things.
We can't do that in Rise. I
So
love jumping off ledges onto monsters.
on monster, I getting that mount feels so excited. That's like my kid, he's a hammer bro, so he's like, hey, I want to show you something. I was like, okay. So he hit me up in the air, and
Oh,
he goes, yeah, and so stuff like that. And I told him, it's so sad. I told him like we were playing Monster Hunter World, I would be like, do it because if I had a great sword, that's an easy
yeah.
mount for me. But the thing is, I told him in Rise, who cares? And the thing is, like, there's no point. The thing is, it's
Yeah.
like I can't get the mount. And it's I can build some blue damage, but the wire bugs build the blue damage for me to
Yeah.
get the mount. So he goes, "Oh, so that would be a legit strat if we were playing like an older Monster Hunter." I said, "Yes, yes, it would
I
be."
do
So I
love
told,
that co-op stuff that you could do in
hmm
the older
yeah, the
games.
team. Oh, I did so many cool team stuff with people back in the day. Yeah, I missed that. I missed it.
And I think they could even like take that to another level where um, being able to whack your the other hunters up into the air was something in World that I actually enjoyed a lot. People did it to me in my first multiplayer streams, and I loved it. I think another one would be like, I don't know if this is crazy, but like stepping off a hunter's shoulder. So you know how like the insect glaive, you get that push to get. What if any hunter could push themselves up by, if they're on a ledge, being able to like jump off a hunter, getting like an alley oop. Like that was
Yeah.
a built-in mechanic. Sorry, I feel we're discussing a lot of new ideas to bring into the games versus
Well, that's the problem when you're passionate about something that's awesome.
yeah. But
So
overall, yes, the franchise has become too easy. No, the franchise has become easier. Whether it's too easy or not is an individual preference.
yeah, I mean, even like some of the last notes I have here are things like the monster changes, as we said, like they're not fighting each other, they're running away from each other in Rise. We have things like multiplayer accessibility. You know, the modern games, people can play with each other. The older games, whether you had to play near somebody, but also they're offline now. You don't have an option to play. Like you know, you can't play the 3DS version of 3U online. You have to play on the Wii U,
Right.
stuff like that. Then we have the last things, which I'll touch on lastly, is they have like what I call customized things that can be removed. For example, like I told you, bring less buddies. You can actually turn off wyvern riding. You can turn off the numbers because seeing numbers is helpful.
Yep.
Like you can see where's your good hit zones.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell that you actually did land that hit, stuff like that. So turning off numbers, I mean, heck, I turned off my HUD completely, which I recommend to no one. But the thing is, but it's the thing of, but if you really want to challenge, trust me, playing things like Charge Blade without being able to see or gun lance without seeing like your gauges and your shells or anything, it sucks. The thing is, you know, but it's the thing of, but there are some things you can use to clean up your HUD. But if you really want to challenge everyone, turn off your everything. Go play that style. It's hard, but it's enjoyable in its own way for challenges. I mean.
Right.
But if for my final thoughts on, I think the whole has Monster Hunter gotten easier or not? Like I say, we each gave our own at the beginning, but there's actually a really good video from, I call him my doppelganger. There's a guy, his name is Blue, and he put out this video called it was like a month or two ago, I want to say, and it was called "Has Monster Hunter Gotten Easier" or something like that. It's like this 20-minute video. It's very good. I think it's actually on your Discord. I'll probably link it in the Discord again for everyone to see. But everyone thought it was me because his name is Blue. Huh. So everyone's like, "Blue, I really like your video," and everyone started talking to me all these things, and I'm all like, "Yeah, I really appreciate all the nice thoughts and comments, guys, and the feedback, but that's not me." And then they're all like, "Huh? Oh, whoops!" They all thought it was me. So that's a good video that you should watch. Other people should watch. I highly recommend it. He does a great job putting it together, and he makes some excellent points. Some stuff we brought up today, some stuff he didn't bring up. Like we brought up more, but we talked a lot of things today. We had a whole rainbow of things.
Yeah. So mostly it got me excited about all the new features, but I'm also I'm preparing for disappointment because I feel they're not gonna be that innovative. They're probably just gonna, add one gimmick or two, but streamline things more. Because I spoke to a lot of people who Rise was their first game and they loved it. And so the sales numbers are also telling a story. Capcom is looking at this and being like, okay, it's more accessible. People love this. They're not going to care about the old grungy hunters because there's a bigger audience to be won with mainstream than with the niche grungy hunters, right?
Well, there's a problem with that. The problem is their old grungy hunters are probably half their sales. And it's the problem of they don't want to lose that much half of their audience because they'll just lose that. And now they got to hope that they build up a new thing. And people are just going to go back to play the older ones.
Well, they have to be careful, especially because there's competitors now like Wild Hearts entering the scene.
Exactly.
Which sets us up great for our next podcast, which that's going to be our topic for next time, as Wild Hearts is dropping in 2 weeks roughly right now from the time we record this. But that's interesting because competition breeds innovation. So I'm excited to see how Wild Hearts is received from the from the community, from the hunter community. And also I played a very early demo where a lot of features were not done and polished. And I don't think anybody's really played a final version of that game yet, like anyone in media or YouTubers, anything. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen when that drops. It has a lot of potential.
Yes, yeah, and absolutely. And the things that are brought to that, if that game nails it, and I want to put this out here too for anyone before the game comes out. If you're worried because it has EA attached to it, because it's a new part of EA, by the way, they're called like EA Originals is what they're called.
Yep.
And so they're going for some new IPs, and they're putting a lot of just faith in their developers. So don't worry about the EA meddling. And if anyone's like, oh, I don't know, I just want to say this: Activision was the publisher for Sekiro, and look how that game came out. Didn't come out like an Activision game at all.
And
So,
the dev team behind Wild Hearts did say, first of all, it's the same team that worked on Hyrule Warriors,
yep.
which I learned
Team
after.
Omega. Yep.
They specifically went to EA Origins to get the North American marketing power that EA Origins could offer. Like they wanted help in marketing this to a Western audience. So that's one reason that they went there. And the second was to get access to data EA Origins has. EA has a ton of data on like player feedback and demographics and all that. So by working with them, they were able to take a lot of that data, get that Western media, and make the game better. So it sounds like it's the right way to partner with EA. And yeah, I was worried too about that stigma, but after playing the demo, and I have some impression videos on this channel you guys can check out. But it's it's not going to have the EA stench, and they promised free updates. This was recent. All the new monsters are going to be free, no microtransactions.
Yeah. See, that right there, this is a good example of the competitive, because clearly there's some of that model that they were influenced by Monster Hunter World and that style. And it's that kind of thing of when people take how that sold so well, 27 million copies, and they're like, we want to emulate that. And now they're going to do that. And then we got the A team of Monster Hunter making Monster Hunter 6. And they're going to look and see how Wild Hearts does.
Yep.
And they're going to be like, all right, where are they succeeding? Because as long as you're looking at how other people are succeeding, you don't pull what happened with like Destiny, and then we had Anthem. Anthem did not look at what happened to Destiny when things first started off and went bad. Anthem repeated history, and look how that ended up.
Yeah.
If you look at how other people are doing and you work on their successes, you can build your success, and then we'll all win.
Like Wild Hearts is coming out with crossplay right there. I don't know if that's direct feedback, because they probably saw, one of the most demanded things from Monster Hunter Rise was crossplay from the player survey, and Capcom's like, we can't do it. And now you've got the Wild Hearts team saying, right out the gate, crossplay, play wherever you want.
Yep.
And it's like, that's competition. That's good, because now if Monster Hunter 6 does not have crossplay, they're already launching at a disadvantage to their competitor.
Yeah, and look how their response is to that too. Immediately, we have the Capcom ID occurring. Capcom ID, one of their things behind that is they want to create kind of like a battle.net for Blizzard, where it's like there's a place where you can, hey, I don't own a PlayStation, I own an Xbox. Oh, well, but my buddy owns a PlayStation. Well, I can't share his gamer tag, but we're all on Capcom ID. I can see when he's online and he's playing Monster Hunter 6. I'll play Monster Hunter 6, and the idea is that we'll be able to cross-play on that. That's kind of the idea of what they're shooting for.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing is, because that's the idea of having that middle ground. So that way people, because they're aiming for that right now, that is actually said about Street Fighter 6. Because that Street Fighter 6, that's what their idea is. So Monster Hunter would be obviously in that same category.
Right.
But yeah, so again, I'm happy. I feel like we're all going to win. I hope we all win.
The player wins.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was... any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
Nope. I think that we went over more than we wanted to, so I'm happy about it.
It's good. You always bring some meaty topics to the table, so appreciate it. And I can't wait for you to try Wild Hearts, and for me to get really try playing it properly and talking about our impressions of that towards the end of the month.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that at the end of the month. We'll have a lot to say, you and I.
Oh, yes. So much good stuff to talk about.
I hope so.
How Monster Hunter can learn, and the do's and don'ts. So anyways, we'll see you on the next episode of XP Hunters. Thanks again for watching. And until next time, keep it classy, or as Blue would say,
enjoy the hunting life. Gee.